Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Groom's Perspective with your hosts Martha Haring and Katy Mosedale. We're opening the stable door and delving into the highs and lows of the eventing world via Spotify, Apple and all good podcasting platforms. For the video edition, please visit The Groom's Perspective via YouTube or say hello back on our Instagram. But for now, here's this week's episode.
Hi everyone and welcome back to episode 5 of The Groom's Perspective with me, Martha.
And me, Katy.
Today we are going to talk about Osberton and what it was like competing our horses and grooming at the same time, leading on from episode 4.
Yeah, so I think in episode 4 we discussed we were going to Osberton for the first time we were both competing together and grooming. So we kind of had a bit of a look back at our previous memories, and we've probably both performed to a level where we can now discuss Osberton as our worst event.
Yeah, the worst event we discussed last week.
It's no longer the worst event. We both can discuss this week's performance.
Yeah.
But we will get on to that.
Yeah, no, that's to come. Keep listening.
Yeah. So we thought we'd just discuss about how the kind of the lead up the day before and then the day of, because we were actually at Osberton I was at Osberton just grooming on the Friday. Jeanette had 4 horses there, and then we had a day off in the middle, and then we were back there. Jeanette had another 4, and then we had 1 each. So it was quite a busy weekend, and we just thought we'd kind of talk you through the process and what we did.
Yeah, so I think because we had the day in between, that was the bit that wasn't as chaotic.
I love a day off in between.
Well, yeah, the day off.
Yeah, I say the day off.
What were you doing?
Just, I don't know. We probably
chilling.
lay on the sofa for a few hours. No, it's for me the best bit is it means we got back at 9-10 o'clock at night on the Friday, and we can just abandon the lorry. If you're going straight out the next day, you've got to do that lorry changeover, and you end up mucking the lorry out at like 11 o'clock at night in your pajamas, and you're just completely questioning what on earth you're doing. So that's when we say the day off in between. That's what we mean. But actually, it's just meant we did the 20 horses on the yard as normal, like every other day.
Yeah,
and platted and packed the lorry. But anyway, that was always a bonus.
Yeah. So we had we had 5 to get ready on the Saturday.
Yes.
Including our 2.
Yeah.
So we rode both of ours, basically do the normal day-to-day yard stuff. And then once all of them are ridden, we'll then start tapping studs, cleaning studs out, and then platting up. And that's about it really. And then pat the lorry at the end of the day once we've used all of the tack.
Yeah.
And then that can all go in and be put away, ready for
the
next day.
Yeah, so all the tack gets cleaned, and we get as much of it ready as possible here, like as many bridles that we can get ready. Obviously, some horses change bits and things between phases, but we try and get it as much possible. We seem to take a ridiculous amount of saddles.
We took a lot of saddles.
Yeah, I quite like it. There's six spaces for saddles in the tack locker, and so I think that should be the limit of how many saddles we have to take. But I think we took 10.
10?
Yeah, so there's 4 in the living. Gross. So there was a lot of saddle cleaning on Saturday, and then I patted our horses up and got them ready. There was a couple that live out overnight that had to stay in overnight because we left at about 4:30.
Yeah, I was going to get onto that. So
yeah.
Yeah,
Martha experienced the barking dog alarm again.
Oh, awful.
If you listen to our earlier episodes, you'll understand that reference.
But it woke me up, and it woke you up.
Yeah, it did.
So we started the morning. What time did we get up? I think it was like
we fed at 3.
Yeah, so I would have woken up at about 1:45.
Yeah.
I think you were up slightly before me.
Obviously getting the coffee
Yeah,
on.
so the day before we went and got the reduced food. So anyway,
yes,
we've not told anyone about this yet, but basically one of our favourite things to do at the end of the day is to drive to Tesco's and get all the reduced bakery items.
Yeah. Honestly, it's such a boost at the end of the day. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, and I really hope that they can. But if you go yellow sticker shopping at the end of a bad day, it just turns a day around.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
So we we got a too good to go bag because we were like, we'll get some sandwiches for Sunday, so you don't have to make any food because, you know, we can't afford to buy anything from the burger van. It's a bit
Too
pricey.
expensive. And it closes early.
Yeah,
we'll get onto that.
Yeah.
Still bitter.
So we went to Tesco and they had like all of their croissants and stuff reduced. So anyway, long story short, getting up at 2:30 or, you know, 2:45 was really great because we could go. I just couldn't wait for my croissants.
Yeah, you did. I think you came into the kitchen about 2:50 and I was just munching on a pan of chocolate. I was like, this is it. This is the life.
I know, and I think I had a can of Coke or something.
Yeah.
And we were like, right, we're good to go.
Ready. So yeah, once we were fueled by our yellow sticker items, came out, fed the horses and got them ready. We did take 2 greys, gross. So there was more bathing that went on, and then just platting their forelocks, giving them a really good brush, any white bits or stable stains come off, and getting them loaded and ready to travel. And then just adding like the last few bits into the lorry so everything gets packed the night before, apart from those extra saddles that needed to go in because we can't, for security, they stay in the tack room that if we can't lock them in. And then the ice that we use on the horses' legs after they've been cross-country, and the electric bike. So that's kind of our last few bits to pop in the morning. Loaded them up and we left for 4:30ish, I think it was.
Yeah. And we got there for about, what, half 6?
Yeah, I think it's about 6:30ish.
So when we arrived, we get the buckets out whilst, I don't know, what were you? You were doing something probably important, and I was given the bucket roll, so I was quite happy with that. I was like, I'll take the water bucket. I'll go and fill the water bucket.
I probably wasn't. I was probably just chilling.
I think you opened the tap lockers or something,
Yeah,
which I struggle to do, so I'm happy to give you that role. I'll do water buckets. So we got the water buckets out and filled them up because Osberton actually had a tap in the car park, which was amazing. And then we headed off to walk cross country.
Yeah, we all went off together actually because Jan had 2 in the 100 as well, and she hadn't walked it yet. So the 3 of us went off cross-country course walking. It was possibly the most negative course walk I have ever been on, thanks to Martha. Honestly, it was quite bad, and we're going to really work on some sports psychology after this.
Yeah, no, seriously, it was really, really rough. Because the day before, I was like, I don't actually want to go.
Yeah.
I'd got myself in such a bad headspace, convinced I couldn't, like, even if I had gone and had a good result, I still think I would have been so negative about it. I was just convinced it was, you know, I'm not doing my horse justice and stuff. So I got myself all worked up, and then we got there, and I was in a better place though, to be fair, when we were walking the course. But I do always look at all the things that could go wrong. So fence 2, I'm like, he's not going to like the gap in that fence. So everyone,
it was a bit
be
like
careful of fence
every
2.
fence that we got to, it was like, what could go wrong here? To the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can get around this. I'm going to withdraw. And I think after about fence 10, I was like, Martha, shut up. Like, this is bad. It's not helping anyone.
I know, and then some of the fences were black flag, and I said out loud, I was like, oh, you know, I can take that route. And like Jan was like, no,
don't you dare.
Like, it's only 100, but come on.
So we did finish the course walk. Our friendship was truly tested by, I'd say, the end of the day before because of the negativity.
Yeah, I will admit it was really bad.
But by the end of the Sunday, it was all fine.
Even after a really bad result, we were on a high.
So I got back, and then Martha was dressaging first along with one of Jan's, so I kind of cracked on and got some studs in, got the first 2 off over to dressage, and then I just carried on at the lorry, studding up everyone else and things. So how was your dressage?
Well, so he warmed up really well, actually. He had a bit of a moment, but I didn't, like, it was fine, it wasn't bad. And then we went in for our test, and I came out, and I was like, you know, that was probably like a 35. You know, it was very average, like nothing. We made one small mistake in the canter, but, you know, I was pretty hopeful for 35. Like, he'd got a 29 a couple of weeks before. Like, come on. And, anyway, we didn't get a 35. We got a 39.
Yeah, it was
10 marks worse than my last score.
Ouch.
So that was great. But actually, I didn't find that out until I was going cross country, so I'd already gone and taken all the show jump back by that point. So it was good because I wasn't in a competitive position.
No, and I think when you were arguing with your mum about the fact that it couldn't possibly be a 39,
I know.
You were like, that must be after my 16 faults I added in the show jumping.
Yeah, because so my mum doesn't know how to work eventing scores. Like, she's not even that old, but I don't know how to explain it to her. So the other day I got a 29 dressage and I had a pole down, so I was on 33. And she goes, wow, 33, that's an amazing dressage score. And I'm like, Mum, it was a 29, okay? I've had a pole down. So when she was in the lorry park the other day, I was like, oh yeah, you got a 39. I'm like, that must have been after the 4 poles. Like, he wouldn't have got a 39. Dressage is our strongest thing. And she wasn't actually lying. She had read it correctly.
She had got it absolutely right.
Yeah, but I don't know what 39 take away 16 is. They're putting you on the spot here.
23.
23.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
my A-level
23.
maths coming flying back in there. Definitely didn't take me a few seconds.
I would have no idea. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that wasn't totally like unreasonable of me to think that.
So yeah, show jumping. We mentioned a few poles.
Yeah, so we headed off to show jumping, and he actually warmed up really well. But went in and he just took out the first 3 fences. But like past me would have been really, really upset with that because it's my worst. I've never had 4 down ever. But actually, he actually finished the round really good, and I think he learnt a lot. I think he just went in and just thought he knew best, and I was just thought, okay, take them out and
go and learn from it.
Yeah, by fence 1 came down, and I was like, oh great. Fence 2 came down, and I was like, surely not fence 3. It's an oxer. Like, come on. Fence 3 comes down. I was like, oh,
I think
great.
at this point, Jan said that she was like, Martha, you really can't have many more fences down.
I wasn't meant to be able to go cross country. Fence 4 was an upright, like quite a big upright, like probably max height, wasn't it? And I thought he's having this down. He didn't have it down. He cleared fence 4.
Took him 3 fences, but he was like, yeah,
I got it now. Fence 5 was an oxer to a related distance. I think it was a 5 strides, and I did it on 4 because at this point I was like, right, we're having poles down. We're just gonna go down this distance. I then lost too much control, and then we jumped in too big in the double, and then he made up too much distance and had that down. Yep. Fence 9, really spooky, and yeah, fine. And then the double of uprights at the end, he actually backed off and jumped really well. So yeah, I actually came out. I was a little bit annoyed, but actually I was okay. I got over it in 5 minutes. I was like, actually, he jumped really well.
Yeah, to be fair, when you came back from show jumping, you weren't too upset.
No. So I came back from show jumping, and I was like, oh, you won't guess how many poles I've had down. I don't even know if you guessed. I think you just like, oh God, tell me.
I was just, oh no.
Just like, I've had 4 poles down. I was like, do not match that. Like, good luck beating 16 faults in the show jumping.
Yeah, we'll come on to that.
So then, I think then you got on for dressage.
Yeah, I went off to dressage whilst you were cross countrying. Yeah, I had Ozzy, and he actually went and did a really nice dressage test. We've worked quite hard on that recently. He's quite naturally, not necessarily on the forehand, but his balance tends to go out the front door quite a lot, and I'm really pleased with the improvement in that phase. That is where it ended on the improvement.
Well, at least one phase was good.
One phase was great. So he got 30, so that was brill. And then we went off to show jumping, and Martha phoned, as you know, about to leave. Martha's like, try not to match it. I was like, don't be so silly. Never had more than 4 faults on this horse. Yeah, I got 16.
So when you came back to the lorry and you were like, do you want to know the good news? And I'm like, surely not. And she's like, I've got 16. And I was like, yes! I'm not the only one that's done shit.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk us through how you got 16?
Yeah, so he is quite spooky, and it was, with it being the international, they had their nicer show jumps out. You know, they're brightly coloured and fillers and that kind of thing, which is great experience for them, and it needed to happen, I'd say. You know, it was not necessarily more atmosphere, but the fences were just not bigger, but you know,
yeah, it just has more of a feel.
Yeah, more feel. And he's quite relaxed in the warm up, and then he does get a bit tense when he goes in there. So he had one down about fence 4, and then he gets quite nervous as a result. So he kind of sped up a bit, and we got composed ourselves, came back together, and then we got to this particularly spooky white fence with a bit of a viaduct filler underneath it. And about 2 strides out, we just dropped a shoulder, spun round, reared up. And I thought, I can't believe this is happening. Particularly as we paid for professional videography for the occasion. So that's where we've got it in its slow-mo glory. So yeah, it was a shame actually, because for him, and then when he came around again, he's such a worrier, and he's just like, oh, I've done the wrong thing. He came around super fast and went very flat over it. So I had 12 faults and 4 time, and obviously 12 of those faults were picked up at one single fence. So it was quite a costly spook, shall we say. But again, he came around and he actually jumped the last double fine. So it is all learning, and it was a good reality check as well. That, not that I do think there is a big difference in events of when you go to some specific grassroots events, the show jumps are quite dull, and that's very in his comfort zone. And I think it is good for them to be exposed to these rather than waiting to go and pay for an FEI and then that happened.
You don't want to get all the way to a 2-star and be like, oh no, he doesn't like show jumping.
Doesn't like show jumping. So yeah, that was that. And again, it was just a case of, well, we draw a line under it and we go cross country, and it's all learning and it's all education. But you couldn't have made it up. The fact that I don't think he's ever got more than 1 down before. And I go eventing with you.
Maybe my negativity
was rubbing off. Yeah, Ozzy was shaking on the lorry.
Tommy had no clue. He was like, oh, what am I meant to do here?
So that was that. But then cross country, I had a good spin, and you had a good spin as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the cross country because it is just that bigger event and it's got more of a feeling. And the ground was spot on, really, to be fair. Considering the weather, they'd done such a good job, and most of it was sandy.
Yeah, really.
So I felt that I could ride forward and give this horse a good chance to experience what cross country is like, because when you're schooling it, you just can't, replicate what being on a course is like. And his first event of the season, it was really muddy, and he'd not run over, muddy conditions for a long time, so I wasn't going to, let him, experience that. So yeah, the ground was perfect. So actually, I just pushed him on, was like, let's go. And he was really green, and he looked, but everything I put him at, he answered. And then over some of them, he gave me a really nice feeling, and that's all I can ask for. And I just think he would have learned so much from it. And yeah, lots of questions. For a 100, it was a pretty steep track.
Yeah, there was plenty in it.
And there was a lot to see. There was flags on course, and he didn't look at it. And actually, yeah, it makes me feel quite excited for that. He's quite a bold horse, and when he understands. I mean, I did fence. There was a fence at the furthest part of the course. I think it was like fence 7. And I went to open him up a bit. I gave him a kick and was like, let's go, let's go and enjoy this. And he just stayed consistently slow. I've never had a horse that I've put my leg on and it's just gone, this is as fast as I go.
He was having a nice time.
He was. He doesn't know how to gallop.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ozzy was just running away from all the flags. Help me.
I know, maybe
they couldn't be more different, could they?
No.
They are absolute polar opposites.
And that's why they get on.
But yeah, I think that's why. I think Tommy is Ozzy's like emotional support.
I reckon.
Yeah. But no, they are two very different horses, but they both had a good learning day. And the fact, I think, like you'd said a few years ago, you would have not coped as well with that. No. And I'd be the same, like all we did all day was hysterically laugh. Probably to the point where Jan was like, Jesus, can these take it a bit more seriously? But I think if you don't, we are there to have fun, and you got to make light of these situations. But a few years ago, I would have been devastated.
Even a few months ago, I would have been in bits.
Yeah.
Because
I've rubbed off on you. In my don't care attitude.
Yeah, no, because of obviously the horse is my investment. Like, I hate to say it, but I've put all of my savings into this horse. So potentially in a few years' time, if I decide he's suitable to find a new home, or he's not going to do my job, like if I want to go up a level and he's not going to do that, I've got to think, is there a market for him, and is he going to find another home? So his record is important, but also it's also not. Yeah. And if someone's going to look at his record and be like, oh, he had 4 down, I don't want that. Yeah,
in his first B100 2 years ago.
Then they're not the right people. Yeah. And I think people have got too obsessed with perfect records, and to get perfect records, you're not going to be allowing your horse to make a mistake.
Yes.
And I think that's what I've learned here, is if they're going to make a mistake, let them make it now, because you don't want to step up a level and suddenly the fences are really big and scary, and your horse doesn't know how to react on his own, because we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be on it at every single fence. It's impossible to, we're humans, we're not robots, so we need the horse to help us out. And yeah, he can make a mistake at this level, and his record looks pretty rubbish now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. I can't change it. And if I go into that competition with the mindset of he needs a really good record, but he's not going to get it because, one, I'm not a professional rider. And with a pro on, he probably would do better.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't actually make him any different horse. Just because he's had a pro on him that's gone and got a result on him. Yeah. He is still the same horse, and he will have learnt more. And I think, like you say, people do get quite obsessed with the records, but I do think people are starting, well, I hope actually that people are starting to see through it as well. Because I know that me looking for a horse 5-10 years ago, I would be just looking at its BE record.
Me too.
But once you've been in a professional yard and you just get a much greater understanding of why horses are for sale, why horses have good records at some level and not at other levels, why they've been passed from rider to rider. And that's something that I just wouldn't have understood before. As in now, I wouldn't be put off by a horse that had 4 poles in its first B100. No. If it did it at every event thereafter, I might then.
He might have a 4 next week.
I think you might be like, oh, they're not really learning. But actually, especially with you haven't seen the round either. Like, Tommy had the first 3 fences down, and then he learned and carried on. Yeah. And, it doesn't say on the record, first 3 fences, then got to grip.
Really well.
Kind of thing. So it is, I'm the same. Like, you're always, when you're not a multimillionaire, you are often thinking about when is your horse profitable to sell, because you have to. And the record does become quite influential, but to also go out week in, week out and have fun and enjoy the sport, you can't get that tied up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, most days would be a bad day.
And if I had gone to that event on my own, I do think I would have been bits. I would have been like, this is disastrous. Like, what an awful day. But we'd both had it wouldn't have been a perfect day for us, but we made fun of it and we had a laugh.
And we had lots of yellow sticker items.
We had lots of bakery items to consume. And we just had fun. And actually, the horses, our horses probably enjoyed it more because we were just like, it's just fun. We're going to have, we both nearly fell off in the cross-country warm-up as well.
Yeah.
And Jan was like to me, oh, there was weight and I had to go back to the lorry. Just like, make sure you unclip your air jacket. And I was like, I haven't even clipped it on yet because I might come off in a minute.
Yeah, I always wait until just before I start jumping.
I need to remember, when I go down to the start, I'm like, I'll clip it on now because
don't want to waste a canister.
No, I don't have £20 to put a new canister in. So, just making a light of a situation.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think as well, if you look at our socials over the next week or so as well, you will get to witness some footage of what we are talking about that I hope that you enjoy as well. So that was kind of our horses. But then actually, after ours had finished, Jeanette had 2 novice horses that both went really well, and she completely showed us up and came first and second. So that is that bit. Moving on swiftly.
What did we say? We said something. We were like, oh, we can't win all of them. We've got to let her win some of them.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't want them to be too upset on the way home. So
I took one for the team and had 4 down. Yeah. Deliberately.
So, that was so kind of you.
I know.
Yeah. So no, but that was a really nice end to the day. They're horses that we work with every single day. We hack them. We hack them both a lot. We gallop them, and like one of them I actually broke in as well. So we're so invested in those horses, and it does even if it's like it is just a novice. But it's not even the result. It's just going out and seeing them go well and seeing their owners be really happy and stuff. It's just the whole team effort. Like that to me, that does mean a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And just being at the lorry and hearing the commentary, when you can hear that they've cleared fence 4 or cleared fence 5, and you just constantly listen to that because, you need to know when that horse is going to be back at the lorry or, when you need to get the next one ready. But then it's nice to hear how that horse is going on course. And like you say, we do want them to do well, and we because we look after them every day, it is a result for all of us because we do really enjoy the progress. Yeah. And then there's another thing of being here and surrounded by, like top riders, and it's that when they have a bad day, on paper, it isn't a bad day. And because we're there grooming and Jan's really good, and if they have a couple of paws, it really doesn't bother because she knows they're learning. Yeah. And I've just taken that on board now.
Yeah, and I think that I'm glad that we are in that environment because she doesn't produce her horses to sell. She always does produce them with longevity in mind. And I think that is a difficult mindset as a young rider in a competitive world, competitive in terms of your competitors, but sponsors, all that kind of thing. Like their social media, there is so much pressure to go and produce those results. And it's quite hard to be brave enough to sit back and say, like, no, I'm producing this horse for the future.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we are learning from a rider that that is always her priority. So, you know, that is a good, I think, for our future. And it just, like you say, it just puts the results into perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, like she had one that was eliminated with a flag, but it was like, yeah, but it actually had a really good round. Hey ho. Yes, it's a shame on its record, but I was pleased with its cross-country round. And I think having that around us, it does really help me to be like, if something does go wrong, never mind. What was the positive from it? Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
we go again.
Yeah, we go again. We'll go home. We'll try to do a bit of work,
Yeah.
try and improve something, and then come back a couple of weeks later. I think we're both out at Aston next.
Well, I was just about to say, yeah, now we've started on such a low.
Yeah.
It's going to be really easy to top that.
Bold statement.
Oh, I'm committed now. I'm like, I've got to get a better dressage mark. I'm really upset.
Yeah.
I'm still upset.
Can't do that. We'll aim for 3 down each on Aston.
I would take that.
Yeah.
I'd take 12.
It'd be an improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all we've got to aim for.
That's what we're going to do. Yeah, so that was how Osberton went, and then obviously we're at Aston next weekend. So that would be our next event. But actually, you have, straight after Osberton, you had like a day, and then you were back off to Badminton Grassroots.
Yes, so I went there on early Tuesday morning with my other horse. He is a bit easier than the one I took to Osberton, thankfully. My big chap, Jet, he's called, and I actually was lucky enough to qualify him last summer for the Grassroots Championships, which is something that I remember when I was about 15, I really, really tried. I had about 4 chances and didn't get there. So I felt like I was ticking a bit of a box of something that I had always wanted to do. And it didn't disappoint. I had a really good time. And yeah, it was a really fab experience. Quite different to what I've done before. Obviously, like I've been to a lot of international events with Jeanette. So I kind of didn't really know what to expect, but I just thought the course was fantastic. Just galloping around that parkland it's cliche, but it was a bit of a dream come true. Like, especially to do it on a horse like Jet that I could just go out and have so much fun on. But just like the camaraderie of all the people, everyone wanted everyone to do really well.
So the atmosphere, it had a nice atmosphere.
Yeah, it really did. Like everyone was very chatty. Not that they're not at FEI events, because they're not, but it's also, I think, you just chat to the other grooms at FEI events. Like you don't have the riders hand grazing, as in people here didn't have grooms with them, or it was their family and all friends, that kind of friends helping out. So when I was hand grazing, I was chatting to other riders, and everyone has got there for such a different reason and for such a different special reason. Like everyone's got a story for why they've got there, and it seemed like everyone really wanted to share that with each other. So that was nice to hear, and such a mix as well of people that try and qualify every year and have been every year for the past 5 years. People who've, got there with their one horse that they started riding again after a 20-year break and stuff. Like there was such a variety. And I think we will talk about it, it is really hard to qualify for, like statistically, kind of thing. It is really hard. So I think everyone was just really happy to be there and not necessarily that, not bothered how it went, but the achievement was getting there rather than going there to win.
To win, the achievement is actually qualifying and turning up in your lorry with your horse.
Yes.
And then the rest is a bonus.
Yeah, go and have a good time. You're at badminton, you're probably not going to be back there again. Kind of thing.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah.
So how did you qualify?
So I got Jet this time last year, actually. I've had him for 12 months now. And I did 200s on him. He came second in one and third in another. Did surprise us. We were like, oh wow, kind of thing. And both of those gave him a regional final ticket. So that meant that he could in the summer, towards the end of the season, events then run these regional finals for people who have, I'm not entirely sure whether it's a percentage or top 5 or would kind of thing. So that's kind of like your second round, should we say? So he went to Frickley for his first regional final, and they've changed it a bit now, and I think it is really good. It's a long arena dressage test at the regional finals, so you're already getting that kind of championship feel. And I would really recommend anyone who does get the chance to go to a regional final, it is just good experience. And the cross country course was a bit longer and a bit harder than a normal 100 as well. So I, with him, was wanting to step up to novice level. So it was a really good in between as well. Not necessarily. If I hadn't have qualified, for me, it was a bit of a bonus to qualify. I was using it as a stepping stone in his education. So he went there and he finished 8th. It was big section. So I didn't get an automatic qualification. I had to wait until the end of the season. So they allocate however many top 20%, let's say. And then there was another one I went to at Little Downham. He went very well. He went double clear, but he didn't get good enough dressage to be in the top 10. So I just then had to wait. And actually at the end of the season, it was about November, December time. I think they do the numbers as to how many they can take. And then actually it turns out this year they took the top 30% of finishers at regional finals. So I got my ticket then.
So was that after the Bicton Free Day?
Yes, because that is another way of...
They take top 20, I think,
yeah.
don't they? They take a lot from the Bicton Free Day.
Yeah, and I think this year as well, Frickley 3 Day,
right.
They're doing that as well.
Oh, okay.
So you can get direct, that's a way to get direct qualification, is to go and finish.
Yeah, I think if you're on a good jumping horse,
yeah,
go to Bicton Free Day.
Yes, and that's an event I've done in the past actually, and really enjoyed it. That's a great experience. So yeah, that's your kind of way of getting there. So it is tricky because you've effectively got to produce good results at the right time. It doesn't necessarily reward consistency. And I was really pleased that Jet got his place because I felt he'd been so consistent all season that he deserved to go.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that. You just have to produce the results at the right time.
Yeah. And then hope that, the fellow competition, it all adds up.
Yeah.
And that you get your place or whatnot.
Yeah.
It depends what other people do, doesn't it?
Exactly. But the qualification, it's a good start for as well. Going to the regional finals, it gets you used to riding under a bit of pressure because you've got that aim of getting to badminton and stuff, and I think that's good to do. And then for him to actually go to badminton, he is a horse that he'll be looking at doing a 2-star long in the not too distant future. And actually, it's the first time he's ever gone and stayed away at an event, done dressage on a different day to other things. And stuff, and actually he will have learned a lot from that experience as well. Yeah,
so because it wasn't necessarily a big aim of yours, you weren't set out to do the grassroots, but would you say to people to aim for a regional as a stepping stone to step in upper level, and if you qualify, you qualify?
Yeah, definitely, and I think it did really work in our favour. So I knew that I wanted to, I think with a new horse, do a couple of hundreds, get to know him. He'd not really done any eventing before, just a lot of hunting. So obviously I knew he had the jump, but we needed to get to know each other as a partnership. So I thought, well, we did a couple of hundreds, and then, excuse me, I did a 105 on him and a couple of regional finals. And that was just a perfect stepping stone to then, he did a couple of novices at the end of last season. And I'd certainly look at doing the same pathway with Ozzy,
right?
My younger one.
Yeah.
Not that we'll be getting any
That's
tickets.
it, right. We're off to Badminton Grassroots now, just with my 16 show jump faults and 39 dressage.
Yeah, I'm not sure we picked up a regional final ticket at Osberton this week.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the day before, we literally signed up to that league, didn't we? We were like the Agria 100 League. I was like, yeah, sounds right up my street.
Yeah, we'll sign
I'm an
up to
amateur. I have one horse. Like, this has got my name written all over it. Signed up, thinking, yeah, I might get some points from this one.
We didn't.
We didn't.
So yeah, but I do think it is good. And then also, so he did a couple of novices at the end of last season. Once you do have to be careful with points, because obviously...
Yeah, in the 100, don't you?
Yes.
But if you're a 90 horse, I don't think you'd be at novice. I don't know.
Exactly.
It doesn't apply for the 90 riders, does it? Is it just 100 riders?
Yeah, I'm assuming you still can't have points.
No.
Thing. But if you are thinking about stepping up, you've got to then weigh up your options. They're allowed 7 points from the ballot date of the regional final. And if you win a novice, you get 6 points. So it does mean that if you happen to do a novice and you won it and you thought, right, I'm not doing any more till after grassroots, it does give you that option.
Yeah.
Luckily, I miss at least one time in the show jumping each time. So Jet does not have any points because we've always had a fence down.
Always had a fence down.
Yeah, tactical.
Yeah, exactly. You were doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
Now you can go clear.
Yeah, I can stop doing that now. I wish. So yeah, he's done 4 novices but doesn't have any points. But I would recommend doing a novice beforehand. Because the course, or certainly a 105,
Yeah.
the course was up to height. It was novice technicality. And I walked it and thought like, oh, I'm really glad. Especially as I have done a few and it's gone well. I was lucky that I could walk it and think, right, I want to take the direct lines. I want to go for this.
And be confident that you're capable of
exactly.
doing that.
But that is something that I would take away from it is the lines are tricky. They are novice technicality. They make you really think. And I think sometimes in 100, it can be a bit roll toppy and you don't have to think, as in you did have to make some decisions of were you riding around the tree or on the direct line? Are you adding an extra stride? That kind of thing. But for me, what was fantastic was it really does intertwine with the badminton course.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, like yes, your dressage and your show jumping's on the opposite side of the road, and that kind of thing. But you walk across the road down to the start box, and you're at badminton. And I walked the course with Jeanette, and fence 3 was like this wall, and she was like, "Oh, I jumped this in this year."
Oh,
like
really?
Yeah, and then points to this massive bit of it, and she's like, "Yeah, that was a corner." And I was like, "Good. I'm glad I'm jumping a little bit." And then for like in the 100, fence 5 is literally directly next to the 5-star fence 2. Same big ditch.
The same ditch.
Yeah, jump the same ditch. But yeah, that certainly was a big rider frightener. There's a lot of talk about that ditch.
Last year it was very late on in the course, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And then this year it's suddenly at the start.
Yeah. And they use the terrain really well and stuff. And I just like after about fence 10, like you galloped up the hill and you just got the full view of the house.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh, this is really cool.
You're making me want to do it now.
Yeah.
It's never been a big aim of mine because I've never been very competitive, like in the dressage.
Yeah.
I'm a very competitive person, but I've not been competitive
Yeah.
enough to ever qualify. But hearing it, I'm like, oh, that sounds so
No,
nice.
that was a bit like me. And I thought like, oh, well, thing. And actually, I think maybe part of me was a bit like, oh, this is what I wanted to do 10 years ago, not now.
Not now. It's irrelevant now, but
yeah,
it
it wasn't. And it was pretty cool cantering through the lake. It's quite spooky, even like coming up to it. And
it did,
there's because obviously it's
got
huge lake,
string.
and there's all the marquees and everything. Their eyes are quite like taken up and stuff. But no, it really did just like crisscross the course. And there was a lot of atmosphere as well. Like on the course, like a lot of people had come to watch. So there's literally like all the big fences. I mean, like the questions. And like around the lake and stuff, there was loads of people and like everyone cheered when you'd gone through and stuff.
I want to go.
Yeah, kind of thing.
I'm sold.
So that was, it is put out there from BE as their kind of like pin-up poster event for the grassroots competitors. And there is this huge like unaffiliated versus BE debate, and we'll probably go into that at another point. But if someone said, was it worth it? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's also really reassuring to see that the grassroots is still massive, like on everyone's calendar.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of events now that you just aren't getting the numbers. Yeah. And a lot of events are cancelling. And, sometimes we do worry, like, are we going to see these events again? But actually the grassroots is so strong.
Yes.
Everyone wants to qualify. It's always very oversubscribed in terms of people getting a ticket and being able to go. So actually it's really, really reassuring to see that it's still very popular.
Yeah, and everyone that was there, like everyone that I spoke to, you know, if it didn't go as well as they'd hoped for it, it was like, never mind, I can't wait to try and qualify next year.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. It won't necessarily be an aim for me next year.
No.
Because I'm on a horse I'll hopefully now step up. But it may be on one of my younger horses. I just have to watch out about overqualifying myself.
Yeah, I don't think you can ride it intermediate.
You can't ride it intermediate. So that's actually why I haven't been able to go for years, because I did one intermediate when I was 17. And then that puts you out of grassroots for, I think it's like 5 years or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So actually with horses that I've had, like I won Bicton 100 3-day.
So, but you couldn't
qualify. I couldn't go on that horse and stuff. So I feel like it was a little window of opportunity for me. And I'm really grateful for it. Yeah. And would really, really encourage people to go. Like, you won't regret it.
Yeah.
And as well, you get an admission pass for the week. Your horse can stay there for the week. Sadly, we're back podcasting.
Obviously, you had to come back to work.
But
I am stealing your pass, so
yeah. Martha's taking my pass on Sunday. So I actually stayed an extra day. We did half a day or so, watched a bit of dressage on Thursday morning, and then came back, and then firmly back to reality Friday morning, quarter to 6, out on the yard, and we went galloping with 6 horses. But we do have a bit of a tradition of badminton and Burley cross-country days, which is tomorrow morning for us from when we've been filming this. We will get up really early, we'll get all the horses worked and done, and then we will all be glued to the TV from 11 o'clock onwards.
Which I'm so excited for.
Yeah, it's such a good day.
Yeah, honestly.
And actually, I like that. It's a really nice thing to do as a team, and we all sit in with a lot of food.
I love snacks.
Yeah, and all sit and enjoy that and stuff. So that's...
Yeah, and it's a good motivation as well, because when I watch it on the screen, I'm like, I want to do that. Like, it's totally not achievable for me, but it would just get the spirits up.
No, massively. And actually, like, for me, just being at Badminton Grassroots, and I was like,
I was
like, oh my God, I want to do this so much. And yes, it's probably very far away, and it may happen, it may never happen. I don't know, but it does, just to see our sport in that light. And
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're working behind the scenes as such, as a groom. It doesn't even see that unattainable. And I know that sounds completely absurd, but and now I know more and being more experienced in what I know of my knowledge, and I'm watching the dressage riders warm up, and I'm watching how they ride, and I'm like, actually, it's not totally unachievable. Yeah. Like, they're just normal people on horses that they've produced, and they're doing really well. But it's, it's possible. Yeah. To some extent.
You just don't know. I think it's so horse dependent.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I don't, actually, you got to keep dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff, and doing something like that was just a real nice boost to...
Yeah. And I think because we've both, totally honest in the fact that we've both were stepped down level to what we're at. We peaked at quite a young age. Well, you peaked at a young age, I peaked slightly older, but now we've both come down and I'm at 100 level, and it's like, I want to be at that step up. But actually watching these big events and seeing the behind the scenes and knowing what goes on, it keeps that motivation up, and one day it might come true.
You never know.
You never know. When we're still podcasting.
Yeah. Wheeling us into the podcast, like, you never know.
You never know, next year might be the year.
Gotta keep dreaming.
100%.
But yeah, that would be my kind of takeaway from this episode is, if you're a bit on the fence about, do I give it a go? Like, and yes, it's not cheap. You have to go through 2 rounds of qualifying, and you've got to pay for that. And stuff, but you won't regret the experience. You're the experience there.
Well, you've convinced me.
Yeah, right, come on. Tommy's got to go next year.
Someone put the show jumps down really low for me, so we can't knock any down.
Yeah, right, that's our aim now. You've got to go next year.
Yeah, well, his half-brother did actually win it this year, so...
Well, there we go.
He's destined.
He's there. Dressage is ultra competitive.
I know, I did. I looked at everyone's results. And
not that I meant that in terms of you. You might need to improve on that 39.
Have you seen the way my horse moves? It's destined for Badminton Grassroots. I did look at the scores and I was like, yeah, someone's on a 22. I'm like, fair play, you know.
Fair play.
That's why I stepped up a level with my old horse so soon, because our dressage was so bad. I was like, get him up to novice. It won't matter so much. But anyway, you've convinced me. So I hope everyone listening that has, you know, wanted to do grassroots or considering it is now feeling more confident and able to give it a go.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Even with a horse that's conventionally not built for it, because I think you'd agree that, you know, Jet is not built.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
He
is an 18-hand hunt horse.
Yeah, and he did not look out of sight, did he?
No.
Totally.
And there is such a variety there. There's kids on ponies. It felt a bit like Pony Club Championship feel, but all ages and abilities, and not abilities. Everyone was very capable. But
different levels.
You know,
people.
Yeah, kids at the start of their journey, older people who, you know, dreamed for years to get there, and I think that's what made it really, really nice. And it really should be on people's calendar to aim for, and it doesn't matter necessarily what you sat on, but, you know,
give it a go.
Yeah,
anything can happen.
Yeah. And if anyone does have any questions about the qualifying or what to expect when you get there or anything like that, you know, literally just drop us a DM, because I can answer them about my experience on the Giant.
Yeah, and you have a lot of knowledge of stairways as well, so you'd be a perfect person to ask.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't mind doing that.
No, we've got so much time. Send the questions in.
Yeah. Literally came back and I was like, oh God, we need to podcast.
I know.
I feel like we're juggling a lot at the moment.
We are, but actually really enjoying it.
But really enjoying it. So that is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And we do have some exciting things on the horizon. We're filming with a few guests next week. So stay tuned and on socials and stuff, because over the next few weeks you will get to listen to more interesting people than
just our live stories.
Just us rambling
what
about
happened this week?
Our horses being naughty.
Yeah.
Lots of exciting things coming up, and yeah,
thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and
see you next week.